All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Town of Newington Conservation Commission meeting for February 20th, 2024. The recording secretary, please call the roll.
Yes, I will. Commissioner Ancona. Commissioner Conway.
Here.
Commissioner Paskowitz.
Here.
Commissioner Sadil.
Here.
Commissioner Wagner.
Here.
Commissioner Wemett.
Here.
Chairman Zellick.
Here. Thank you. Moving on to acceptance of minutes, approval of the minutes from the meeting of January 16th, 2024. Anyone have any comment, corrections to the minutes?
Yes, Commissioner Paskowitz here, Chairman Zeller.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Some editing, I think that needs to be done. I'm not quite sure how to address it, but I'll tell you. Page 1, it's 3/4 of the way down the page. My name, Commissioner Paskowitz, and the last sentence in the paragraph. But it didn't receive the amount to go into the election. Amount doesn't seem to fit with that sentence. I wasn't able to get in because it was buffering on me, and I would probably maybe put the word acceptance to go into the election, if that's acceptable. If you can think of another word appropriate, I appreciate it.
Okay, we'll just note that there were some technical difficulties with the audio. Anything else?
No, thank you.
All right, how is the reception this evening? You guys hearing us loud and clear?
Yes, we are.
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear everybody.
Yes, I can as
Great.
well.
Okay. Any other commissioners? Comments on the minutes? All right, hearing none. Motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wemett. Any second?
I will second. This is Commissioner Conway.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Moving on to public participation for non-agenda items. Any member of the public wishing to speak may come forward. Limit their comments to 2 minutes. Anybody online?
There's no one online, Mr. Chairman.
All right, no in the rooms seems to be interested in commenting. We'll move on to new business. First item under new business is application 2024-01 to modify wetland permit 2021-18 for the construction of a 14 by 22 foot building addition within the upland review area at 72 Wells Drive North. Applicant owner contact Jason Darren.
Yes.
Okay, if the applicant is present, would you please come forward and just state your name for the record and give us your presentation, please.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. My name is Jason Darren. I'm a resident of 72. Oh, thank you. I'm a resident. Is this? No. Okay. Resident of 72 Wells Drive North. Currently, it's a 2-bedroom ranch, and I have 2 daughters of my own with shared custody. Basically, looking to put an addition onto the rear of the house for my girlfriend, who is present. Big life event to have her move in, and she has a couple of elder children of her own. And so the idea here is to basically add a bedroom and a small bathroom, and then the finished basement space underneath is going to act as a 4th bedroom. Effectively adding a combined square footage of just over 600 square feet. And as far as the submittal here, I believe that there was a site plan that was submitted that shows a updated site survey where the property line actually shifted very slightly inward. That requires me to, where the addition starts is going to be about 2.5 feet off of the existing rear left corner of the house. Let me see here. And then it's going to extend, as I mentioned, 22 feet back. And you could, if you see the site plan, the rear left corner of the addition is going to just barely cross the 70-foot elevation, which is still about 17 feet above where the stream bed is. And it's basically, that's where my yard is currently. It's a very slight slope, and grass and pachysandra are in that area. No trees or shrubs or anything are getting removed during this because there aren't any there. At most, there might be like a small branch that I might need to trim away from the house or from where the new addition is going to go. It is going to be, as I mentioned, a full basement, and of course adhere to all current building codes, with an egress window. I had put in my my summary, there was most likely going to be a window on the west facing wall. There may also be a secondary window, also egress size minimum, on the north facing side as well, since that's kind of where the slope of the land works to my advantage. And no other disturbance to the yard at all. Any runoff, as far as gutters and everything, it's all going to be surface runoff. And again, if you look at the site plan, with the way the slope is, all surface runoff currently goes towards the brook. And you can kind of see on the left side of the on the left side of the property, it's kind of like a little bit of a gully there. It's not, there's no active running stream bed. It's just kind of just the way the contour of the land is. So that's going to help feed any rain runoff, roof runoff in the same direction that the current runoff runs. So I don't see any perceived impact there as far as the way that the drainage is going to run. And as Eric had mentioned on his notes, there is still currently a silt fence installed from when I had the trees taken down before. I left it in just to make sure I was catching everything. There actually is additional silt fence that I could run around to the side if necessary, or if we needed to put a new one in, no problem at all. But I don't foresee any issues there. There's no other terracing or walls or anything like that going up as part of this construction. It's strictly the excavation. The only excavation is going to be for the foundation. Trying to think if there's anything else here. I did mention that there's currently my central air condenser unit is on the rear corner of the house. It's going to just need to get shifted a little bit with where the building jog is. So it's basically staying in the same area. And then next to it, if I end up putting a mini split type system in, it'll just be next to it, inset in that same building break.
I do have some, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I do have a few current pictures from a week or so ago. I can bring those up whenever the applicant is done with his presentation, just so point of reference.
Sure. It's more or less the overall summary of what's being done here. The exact, I actually sketched up. I didn't have an electronic copy of it to be able to present. If anybody would like me to hand a copy of the elevation views of what it's going to look like on the house, I have a couple of very preliminary versions that I can share. I could probably mail them out as a PDF after the fact if necessary.
I mean, the exterior elevations really aren't really germane so much to the wetland application, but
Really more for curiosity, I guess, more than anything. So, but there's, as I mentioned, this is the entire construction, the scope of the construction for this modification to the application.
Okay, so it's your presentation.
Right? Yes.
Okay. And Eric, you had some staff report. You want to go over that?
so the staff report is fairly self-explanatory. I think, this is a photo. This is from the 8th of February. The silt fence is still installed from 3 years ago. It's basically catching his leaves. Just get through a couple more here. This is from kind of up in the backyard level, and you can see how I think I pointed like about a 20-foot grade differential. And one of the photos in the staff report, I did it without the leaves on the tree, so you can see that the brook is off his property. So it's not on his property. It is on town property. And the brook in that area is somewhat silted up from, it's in that area, it gets a lot of stuff from upstream, so it's tough. And then this is and some of the plantings. Is that the same picture? Sorry, hold on. No. Again, the silt fence. And in this area here where you can kind of see my cursor is moving, this is where his plantings that he had planted in 2021, they are still there and viable. It's just obviously in the fall season, it's hard to really differentiate what's leaves and not. There is competition with some other things planted on the slope as well. So it's there and potentially, it could be enhanced if needed, if you felt it was
Mr.
required.
Chairman, if I may.
Commissioner Sadell?
Yes, question. So where exactly are the invasives? I noticed in the narrative there were some competing invasives, other species on the steep slope. Can you point those out or?
I don't think I said invasives. I said there's competing plantings in the area. Whether they're invasives or not, right now, it's hard to tell this time of year. If I used invasives, that was probably incorrect. There's definitely other plantings on there. Some of them could be invasive, some of them could be, saplings. It's hard to tell with just this time of year.
Fair enough. If I may continue, Mr. Chairman.
Did you have another follow-up question?
Yes.
Mr. Sadell's still talking, yes.
Go ahead.
How long have you been at this property, sir? Mr. Aaron?
It'll be 5 years in July, so a little shy of that.
Is this area prone to flooding? It's next to Mill Brook.
No, I'm sorry. No, even with some record-breaking rain this past year, it's never even gone over where I've planted their high bush blueberries, are the plantings that Eric is mentioning, and that's pretty close to the edge of the brook. So there's quite a bit of drop off from where basically the lawn ends. It's about, I think I mentioned, according to the site plan, 17 feet. And then right before the edge of the brook, there's about 1.5 feet straight drop just from natural erosion of the brook area. Mm-hmm. And it's near that edge is where I planted the high bush blueberries, and the water, if I had to estimate, even during the worst rains we've had over the last year, I'd say I don't think it's ever been more than maybe 2 feet above regular, just nominal flow. So even with all that rain, as wide as the brook looks, and it floods beyond, like, into the town area where it's basically just, for lack of a better term, swamp. It's very level down there. It goes out that way, but it never comes up the slope.
What is the plan for the silt fencing there? Looks like it's holding back a lot of stuff. What is the long range plan?
Yeah, the long range plan is to remove that. I had left it in place just to make sure that there wasn't any erosion. So when I first did the wetlands permit, when I first moved in, I didn't understand that the trees that I was looking to take down was within the upland review zone. I just didn't even know. So once I was made aware of that, I submitted the permit, and the silt fence, of course, was that one of the actions after taking down the tree. And that tree that was taken down was maybe an 80-foot beech tree that was rotting and dropping large branches. But as you can imagine, it was a huge canopy. And so if you were to look at some of the other trees in the area, they've actually grown away from my property in order to get the sunlight when that other tree was in place. So when that tree came down, it has allowed a lot of as Eric had mentioned, like saplings or other ground cover and things to spring up in place. And so just that much light has allowed it to get in there. And so right now, yeah, I just left it in a little longer, probably than necessary. And basically it's just holding back a lot of leaves right now. So the plan is to remove a lot of that and then remove the silt fence.
Do you
If-
feel the slope is going to be stable enough when that happens? It is a 17-foot drop, as you mentioned. It's just, it could be vulnerable to erosion in the upland review area.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be any different than it was when I had the tree there. The root system from the tree is going to be there for years. It's going to take quite a long time for that to decay and rot. And by the time that happens, there should be plenty of other cover in place. And just to make sure, like underneath all these leaves and everything and around the leaves, it's hard to see in the picture. And also because it's fall, but there's a lot of other types of bushes. There's, I think there's forsythia back there, and a couple other things. There's poison ivy, and a few other things. There's plenty of other things that have taken hold to help hold that soil in, for sure. To the point that I was actually pretty amazed at how quickly things grew in after that canopy was removed from the tree. So yeah, again, I'd certainly monitor it, and if other things need to be planted in there, I can take a look. But that root system from the beech tree is so large that it's I'd imagine the tree diameter itself, I think, was a little over 30 inches, if I remember right. So you can imagine the root structure that's holding all the soil in place. It's going to take a long time for that to decay. So other things will grow in place in time.
I got one final question. I excuse you, I've made you repeat yourself. As far as the leaders coming off the house and a new addition, can you tell me something about that, where that water is going, the flow of that water?
Sure. So the roof ridge is going to be perpendicular to the existing roof ridge. So it's going to have a north-south alignment. And so the two gutter systems are going to be on either side of that, of course. And the plan is to do surface drainage, not piping or anything like that. And the idea is that I'm going to use some sort of fan, some of those diffuser fans that you put at the base of a spout, just to make sure it doesn't erode your current yard. I'm looking at something similar to that for this, but all of the existing area where the addition is going to go, it already slopes not just north towards Millbrook, but also a little bit west towards my neighbors, and there's that little gully on the side. So the runoff from the two downspouts is basically just going to kind of work in the same manner. But I definitely plan on putting diffusers in to help make sure it spreads out and doesn't cause premature erosion or any sort of channel.
And Commissioner, just, I put up the picture from 2021 when those are the blueberries that he had planted at that time. Just so you can see that they were there, and just the general area where they were kind of at the top of the slope before it gets too steep rolling down there.
And have they established themselves?
Yeah, again, I could see, but I can't, like I said, just because it's the winter, all the leaves are off, so it's a little unsure exactly what's there. The applicant has stated that they're there, and there is competition with other things in the area as well.
So I had note, in your staff report, you pointed to our regulations, section 6.3, the vegetative buffer. Were you suggesting that additional vegetation?
The commission can, review that if they feel that additional buffering may be required, because you guys put that in a number of years ago. And
unfortunately, we don't, we can't get out there to see it. So we'd have to rely on your opinion or advice.
Could it be beefed up? Sure. I'm sure the applicant was willing to put some more plantings down there. We could take a look at it in the spring to see what's viable out there for the plantings. You could make going forward, you know, when you take action, you can put some kind of condition about, you know, future plantings.
All right. Is that
We could-
agreeable to the applicant?
Yeah, I think so. It'll be, as you mentioned, I think in the spring when a lot of the leaves go away, it'll be a little easier to see. If I had to estimate the size of the blueberry bushes right now, they're probably about a little bit over twice the size of what they are there. So they're struggling with other stuff that's around it, but they are all still alive. I'm not sure if it's because it's so close to the brook, or I'm not, maybe something else needs to be planted a little bit further away from the edge. But yeah, we can certainly review that.
And can the town provide suggestions for the plantings?
Yes, we could provide some suggestions for something, you know, in the URA on a slope like that. And maybe it's even just a conservation seed mix that would take hold and, you know, reduce any erosion, et cetera.
And the other thing, I just want to get a clarification because the surveyor's site plan does show the bank for the stream on the applicant's property, excuse me. But the aerial does not show that. So I'm assuming that, this is a current survey.
It is a current survey he did.
So could it possibly be that the water levels, do they come up onto your property?
So actually, if you could go back to that previous picture, I'd be able to explain that really well. The one that shows the plantings, from 2021. So if you look at the water course right now, it's kind of staying to the north. Only in the highest flood levels does it. You can kind of see where that, I was mentioning, it drops like another 1.5 feet or 2 feet from where the plantings are down to the riverbed or the stream bed. And only under the highest water does it get close to where those bushes are. But it never goes up onto where the bushes are. So it changes, the reality is it kind of changes course only under flood stage. So it does move south under heavy rain, but the natural course of it is to kind of stay where you see it here.
So basically, roundabout ways, when the surveyor was out there, that's where he located the edge of the stream at that time. So
if we do additional plantings, we just make sure that they're above the bank.
I think that location appears to be good, but again, you can put some behind it. You could put, again, we can look at different plantings for holding that bank and et cetera.
Any other commissioners? Questions?
Yes, Commissioner Pasquich, Chairman Zella.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Is there a photo available showing the proposed excavation site and the land that's sloping down towards the brook? Do you have a photograph relation to that?
What's here on the site plan is this area that's hatched. That's going to be where the foundation and the addition are going to be. I would have to look and let me see what I may or may not have for additional photos. If you can continue asking other questions, Mr. Paskowitz, while I look for that.
I don't have any other.
Okay.
Chairman Siddell stole most of my thunder earlier.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I'm glad you're on top of it.
Any other commissioners' questions?
Hold on.
Okay, we'll wait for Eric to bring up a photo.
So this was taken in October 2021. Over here where my cursor is kind of moving, that's going to be the area where his excavation is going to be on that end of the house. You can see it's basically lawn area. There is some slope there. If that helps. That's the best picture I have.
That's what I'm looking for. But I'd also like to know the distance. I mean, I see the site plan, I see the site plan here, but roughly from that addition at its closest towards the brook wall, how many feet would it be down to the brook?
Elevation wise or
He probably means distance wise.
distance?
I don't have a scale with me.
I can get a rough estimate here.
Roughly, fine.
He did not put that on there. If it's to scale, it looks like it's roughly twice the length of the addition, so that would be a minimum of roughly 44 feet. I would say to be safe, you know, certainly 40 feet would probably be a safe estimation as a minimum.
Okay.
I can
that's-
verify that and, you know, bring that up at the next meeting
Yeah.
as needed.
Yeah,
I can ask my site surveyor too, as well.
I still want to keep this going a little bit. So let's say presumably it's 40 feet to the brook. And the wetland limit is less than that, isn't it?
I think if you look at.
Oh,
the,
I'm
if you look
sorry.
at this- if you look
I'm
at this-
estimating to the wetland limit. I'm sorry, that's my mistake.
Okay, you're.
For the, Alan, are you looking for the wetlands buffer?
Um, I don't, good question, Chair. Well, I see
the-
wetland limit. I don't see
Right,
anything.
The review area, the 100-foot review area starts at the front of the house.
Correct. So what you see on the map where it says wetland limits, that is the wetland limits by town mapping. And then the 100-foot buffer, as pointed out, goes in front of the house. So the entire house is within the buffer. It was built prior to wetland statutes in 1973.
So we're beyond 40 feet to the brook. Is what I'm looking at.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, trying to get an indication of the topography and the length of the topography heading towards the brook in distance. In my mind now, since we don't have an actual picture of it, I can picture it in my mind. So it's quite a distance in relation to the roof line is going to be, you said perpendicular to the house roof line?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so the roof, the sheet flow of the water is going to run east and west,
Correct.
and that won't have anything. There won't be any sheet flow towards the wetlands, as I can see from that addition. You're going to have collectors of leaders, which are also going to dissipate, and that's not going to be a major sheet flow that I feel that would be moving down a slope towards 40 feet and then beyond to the brook. So I don't see any concern with runoff and moving on to the brook or wetlands and causing an impact. That's my take on it.
Eric, did the engineer's office have any comment?
No, they had no comments. Thank you. No.
All right, any other commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, my only,
Commissioner Siddall?
the only question I would have, would your neighbor be getting more water? It's really not of our purview, but just to add on to Mr. Commissioner Paskowicz's comment, is there going to be more sheet flow to the abutting property? I'd maybe discuss it with your neighbor just in case they're okay with that. That's just passing comment.
Yep. I have actually discussed that with my neighbor, and they don't see any concerns, mainly because there is that kind of small gully between our houses. And so it's going to kind of, it's not going to go overflowing. If you saw in that previous picture, there was like an outdoor shed on their property. The slope of the land will direct it away from that shed and kind of towards in between our, like right along the property line pretty much. So they, you know, they're not here to speak for themselves, but I did speak with them on that.
Commissioner Paskowitz here. A question about the word gully. Is that a man-made swale as is done in developments to help diminish water moving from one property to another? Would you call it a swale that was there and done in the development? Well, you're only there 5 years, so.
If I may, I suspect that it probably was somewhat when the houses were built, kind of constructed that way, and over time, it's just continued as water's flowed through there. it's just become more defined.
Yeah, it
But I
makes
would
sense.
suspect.
Also, thank you.
Have the abutters been made aware?
There's no requirement, there's no public hearing, so there's no requirement to notify the abutters. If you, on the draft motions, if you choose to call for a public hearing, there would be.
All right, so since they've not been notified, I would prefer to hold off on the motion until the next meeting, just to give them an opportunity to come in if they did have any concerns.
Okay, so you're gonna take no action tonight of
Tonight, we can move on it at the next meeting.
Okay.
Any other questions before we close this one? All right, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Moving on to the next item is application 2024-2, construction of a 48 by 60 foot industrial building and drainage infrastructure within the upland review area at 161 Carr Avenue. Applicant owner contact James Campbell. The applicant is present. Please come forward. Looks like we have Mr. Bongiovanni. Present.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members of the commission, staff. For the record, my name is Alan Bongiovanni. I'm a licensed land surveyor in the state of Connecticut. My office is at 170 Payne Road in Newington. And I'm representing James or Jamie Campbell on his application, 161 Carr Avenue in Newington. The property is located on the westerly side of Carr Avenue between the existing Carr Avenue and the railroad tracks. To the west, that basically parallel Carr Avenue, and to the west, it would be John Downey Drive in New Britain. The wetlands are located to the west side of the railroad track. It's a water course. It's a Webster Brook in that area. It's about, the brook itself is about 10 feet below the elevation at the property line, the western property line. Mr. Campbell's proposing to construct a 3,000 square foot industrial building on the property. Again, it is within the regulated area. The building will extend about 30 feet into that regulated area. It's a small lot, being 9,000 square feet or just over 9,000 square feet. And we've designed this plan with your normal erosion and sediment control measures, as well as a storm drainage system that will not only capture and detain any increase in runoff, but will also pre-treat the stormwater before it enters an existing town drainage system that parallels the north property line, starting on Carr Avenue and exiting to the west of the property along the railroad tracks. The property along the railroad tracks is basically stone ballast, 2-inch trap rock that supports the tracks, as well as a swale between those tracks and our property line. There's an existing drainage system that the railroad system has in place along that property line, just captures the water as it runs off from the properties abutting it. The use of this property is going to be similar to the use of on the north and the south, as they're small lots, small industrial buildings. Mr. Campbell actually owns the property to the north, and this is going to be a building to be used in conjunction with his businesses in town. There are no direct impacts to the wetlands. We did receive comments from the staff regarding the site plans that we revised. We've submitted responses to the comments. There's some minor drafting issues that have to be done on the plan. A request or a comment was made whether we investigated the presence of wetlands on the beyond using the town wetlands map on the neighboring property. We did not approach the railroad to get permission to flag wetlands there. That would be a monumental task, and I'm fairly confident that the result would be a denial for them to allow us to go onto their property. As I said, their property is basically covered in Trap Rock. It's been there for, probably 100+ years. And, I don't believe, in my opinion, that there's a wetland, within the railroad right of way, with the exception of the watercourse to the west. We did check the natural diversity database. There are no listed or endangered species anywhere within this section of town. So that should not be a concern there. That's my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, the applicant did return response to comments today, and a quick look this afternoon, they appeared to all be satisfied. As he said, it's just some minor drafting things for the plan, so we'll have revised plans at some point in the next couple of weeks.
The narrative, who's the author of the narrative?
The narrative, I believe, is
My employees.
So that was done by the land surveyor, not the civil engineer.
correct.
And the listing the butters, I see that they're listed here. They've been notified.
No, again, there's no public hearing, so it's just something the application calls for the applicant to provide in case there is a public hearing. That way we notify them as needed.
All right, any other comments from the staff?
No, as I said, the applicant addressed all the wetland comments. This application will also be going for TPZ after they could present before you approve, but TPZ will table it until they get a formal approval.
Okay.
Otherwise, as stated, I mean, there's about half the building is within the URA. He's also putting in an infiltration system for drainage to capture that water and release it back into the wetland or back towards the railroad right away. And as he points out, the brook is on the opposite side of the rail bed, which is going to be raised, so it's going to impound the water on that side of the rail.
Basically, acts as a barrier between the two properties and the wetlands. All right, questions from commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Is there Commissioner Siddell?
It
Yes.
is.
Go ahead.
Ms. Bongiovanni, you said the area was 9,000 square feet. What does that translate into acreage?
So it's about 2/10 of an acre. The property itself, the proposal is to put a 3,000 square foot building on that 9,000 square foot of land.
So it's about 2 acres, you said. I looked at your report.
2/10 of an acre, if I may.
2/10 of an acre.
Yes.
Rather small. Well, so 0.1 acres will be disturbed. So can you go over exactly everything to the left of the boundary line? What area will of that 0.1 acres is going to be disturbed?
So it's 0.1 acres within the regulated area. Basically, the entire lot will be disturbed in some way, shape, or form. The extreme west of the property, there's a slope at the property line to the elevation is about 15 feet below where the finished floor elevation of the building will be. It's about a 10 to 12 foot slope along the western property line on the subject property. It is vegetated. We will probably clear that vegetation, adjust the grading because it's a little in excess of 2-to-1 slope, and we'll seed it. We have seed mix specified on the plans, along with erosion control matting to stabilize that till the germination occurs.
Now, can you go over again how that sheet flow is going to be coming off the building and going to go normally, then cut to the left? Can you just go that on the map just to show all that flow is going off the building?
So all the impervious area, the parking lot, driveway, and the building will all be captured within the drainage system. We're going to capture all the roof leaders into the drainage system. There's a catch basin in the center of the parking lot in front of the building. It's going to go to the south to the left front corner of the building. It's going to go towards the west from there in a pipe. Our detention system and our is from there to the north, and then exits right into a storm drainage pipe that the town has in that area. So we're not going to sheet flow anything, any of our new impervious area on the property. Will be all captured and pre-treated and detained within the storm drainage system as designed. The only sheet flow will be, the areas in green that you have there that are going to be grass and vegetated.
Now, tell me more about the detention pond there, just to the, or area to the left there of the proposed building. Talk to me about that. What does that
So,
mean?
so that's the plastic systems, an infiltrator system. There's 5 components to that. It is designed so that the entire thing is an isolator row so that that along with the catch basin up front with the deep sump and the snout system that we've specified on that will remove in excess of the 80% of TSS removal that's required.
And there will be, just so you know, there will be some type of maintenance to that underground system as well. It'll be inspected and cleaned at various times according to the specs.
When you
And
say
included in the, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
included in the design, there are inspection reports for that system. These type of systems, they've taken hold in the last 15 or 20 years. They function very well. They last indefinitely, and they're easy to maintain. You know, if this is a small site, and I could never imagine this system could be overwhelmed with any sort of silt and things like that. But these type of systems allow themselves to be inspected periodically, and then the vac trucks will come in and actually clean out any accumulation of sediment and silt that may be captured in there over time. So they're a very durable system and very reliable.
So most of this is going to be underground. We're not
It
going to
will all
see
be
this-
underground.
All be underground, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, just on your drawings there, you have 10 sheets, but anything after sheet 5, 6, 7, 8, I guess that's just building material, information. We have site
I'm sorry.
details. I was
It's
just
hard to
looking
hear you,
at-
Andreas.
Let me hear me now.
Yes.
Yep.
So I was just looking at this, your prints from sheet 5 to sheet 10. Is there anything noteworthy on those sheets? I checked the first 4 sheets, but I noticed, is there anything noteworthy on sheets 5 through 10 on your blueprint package? Is there anything?
So there's a considerable amount of detail as far as how the systems are to be constructed, and it includes not just the storm drainage system, but the erosion and control matting, the planting of trees, the paving, utility trenches, things like that. But there's also the erosion and sediment control details on sheet 8. Sheet 9 has the narrative, the erosion and sediment control notes, maintenance, sequence of construction, things like that, that our engineers over time have expanded upon and perfected, so that we capture most any eventuality during construction and after, so that this can be properly maintained.
So basically on that west side, what are we gonna have protecting that downslope there, right where you have your detention? What's gonna be there? Silt fence, hay bales? What's
So
gonna be your
there's actually,
primary?
yes, along the west property line and wrapping around the north and south property lines. We've designed that with silt fence. I'm just gonna turn to that page. So that we basically encircle the entire property so that nothing will run off the site. And as I said earlier, all of that slope area that's in along the west property line or the rear of the building will be regraded because it's a little steeper than a 2-to-1 slope. It will be reseeded with a specified mix that we have, and it will also be covered with the erosion control matting so that it's stabilized during germination. That was something that will eventually decompose over time as the vegetation takes hold.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners' questions? Eric, we don't have any photographs of this property.
I don't have any photographs of this property. Nope, it's currently an undeveloped site. You can see from the aerial and the staff report.
Just,
I could provide photos for the next meeting, if you like.
All right, seeing no more questions from any of the commissioners, I think we'll table this one for this evening.
Thank you very much.
Act on it at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, we don't have to vote for public hearing on this?
We're gonna table that since the butters have not been notified. If anybody has any concerns, they can come into the town. We'll give them an opportunity to petition if necessary. I'd rather err on the side of the public and give them the opportunity than close it to a public hearing at this time.
I just, as a point of interest, both these applications were received both in excess of probably 2 weeks ago, and they have been posted on the town planner's page, so.
Yep. All right, moving on to old business. We have none. Next item is public participation on non-agenda items. Any member of the public wishing to speak, come forward. All right, seeing none in the room, do we have any online, Eric?
There's no one online, Mr. Chairman.
Moving on then to communications and reports, agent communications.
The only thing I suspect, we will be getting an application for the bridge replacement at the falls within the coming months. I believe the town has a grant to replace that, and once they finalize those part of all that, then an application will also be forthcoming. So just something to keep in mind.
All right. Any follow-up on Commissioner Paskowitz's concerns last meeting? Some debris at the park.
So I did reach out to the park supervisor, and he said he would look into it and they would do what they could when they had time and when it was safe to pull some of that stuff out.
Okay. Council liaison communications. We have any communications from town council? You see we have our liaisons present.
We'll share.
Names for the record, please.
Gail Badraco. Kim Rata.
Thank you.
And at our last meeting, which was February 13th, I can go through a few and then I'll defer to Councilor Badraco. We did approve the ARPA funds. We still have a balance of almost 2 million. Yeah, about 2 million. Yeah, we had about almost 2 million, and we have approved. Let me tell you in just a moment. 1,758,832. So we still have a balance of about 200, a little less than 250,000. We approved. CROG has had received a RAISE grant. That was to, or they came to us to do a study and assessment of safety for bicycles, pedestrians, and transportation safety on the Berlin Turnpike from Wethersfield to Berlin. They received a grant and it was 1.6 million. There is cost sharing for the town, the 3 towns, and they had come to us the meeting previous, I think, and reported, asked for our participation as well, and we approved that, and it our cost sharing would be $33,333.
I don't think the grant was approved yet. They're applying for it,
Are they?
but
I
they
believe that's
came to
correct.
us, each of the 3 towns that are on the Berlin Turnpike. They needed to get approval and authority, and this.
You're right, yeah.
For 30, our share would be 33,333.
333.
But it's a $2 million grant, I believe, and DOT is going to chip in 200,000.
Yep.
CROG is 100,000. And each town then 33.
Yeah.
But the grant itself would be 1.6 million if we get it.
You know, and we felt that that type of a study is really important considering how much of an increase there is in traffic and traffic accidents. They also reported that. I think we could probably provide you with the information that they provided us if anyone is interested. And Eric, you probably have that report already. Another thing under old business, and I'll defer to you to the new business. We approved the open space committee acquisition criteria. And again, I think Eric, if you don't have that, we can.
I'm kind of aware of it.
Yeah. That was done February 8th, and we adopted the recommendations for open space criteria.
What that was is the Open Space Committee came up with a set of recommendations in order to kind of formalize, in case we do go for a grant. Obviously, there's not a lot of open space left in Newington, but to show that we're serious, it helps to codify the fact that the town has studied the open space needs, has identified what would be a good parcels for purchase if any becomes available. So the Open Space Committee came up with the recommendations, whatever, and presented it to the town council. And graciously, the town council said, well, we will formally recognize and acknowledge and accept these so that if any opportunities do become available, it will be right there to apply to a grant, to attach to a grant application. And at the same time, the Open Space Committee did come up with a letter. The hospital property is up for sale. So even though we don't, as an Open Space Commission, we don't have any decision-making authority, we just wanted to make a statement that we hope that the land use commissions, including you, and maybe Eric, you can maybe make a copy for the Conservation Commission, giving our acknowledgement that, you know, it's going to be private property, the developer has rights, but we would hope that any development considerations will consider the open space needs, because that is one of the few remaining parcels of significant open space in Newington, in addition to the fact that it abuts Cedar Mountain and the environmental impacts that any kind of development could have, plus to make sure that's in scale with the surrounding neighborhoods as well. So it's just basically a statement saying, you know, we understand there'll be development, you know, we acknowledge that development is needed, whatever, but we do hope that there will be considerations for the quality of life and the open space and the environmental as well. So that was presented to the town council, and it was also presented at the TPZ.
And if I can expand that a little bit as well. Also, the property is for sale. However, the town has an RFP that just closed last week, a request for proposals for a downtown analysis of the downtown area, which includes the Hartford Hospital property. We just got those proposals in, so we will be reviewing them in-house and then selecting, you know, a candidate to develop this plan in conjunction with the town. So, you know, the property's not going to sell tomorrow. And then, you know, so we're going to get a vision of what the downtown should be. And I think they're going to have some PIMs as well to get some public input, council, other boards and commissions. We're going to see what they're posing, and then move forward from there. Additionally, the property is currently zoned as public land, so there's not a whole lot that can be built there without it getting rezoned before the Planning and Zoning Commission. So there's other steps to go through before it's going to come to fruition for any kind of development, I suspect.
And again, you know, one of the purposes of this too is, you know, developer has a vision, the town has a vision. Ultimately, it comes down to zoning and legality, but if the land use commissions can kind of influence or kind of push the vision that as a town we come up with, so any kind of development will be in more harmony with what we want as a town versus less harmony. And we felt it's very that land use commissions can be maybe a little bit more influential in creating a vision and kind of guiding development with maybe incentives or disincentives or whatever, as long as it's in, you know, within the, you know, the zoning and the land use, you know, realm and regulations. But we do feel that, you know, particularly with that piece of property, we really need to be to have, to kind of push a little bit for what we want as a community versus letting the developers, tell us what they want.
It's more of the town driving the development and in a thoughtful way rather than it being driven or.
At least getting out in front of it.
What is the current zoning of public land?
Public land is for like public facilities, i.e. a hospital. There's very other little else that can go on there, you know, and kind of, you know, somebody that has an interest that works a government agency, stuff like that. So it's very narrow and very focused. So there is a small portion of the property that is currently zoned as R12, a 5-acre piece. And that is where some old residences currently are there between Cedar Street and Patricia Genova, that little strip.
Anything?
Where are you speaking of that area where
There used to be a daycare in there. There's old housing that's in there. Yep, that piece.
and that's not being, there's nothing going on in there right now, right?
Not unless there's vagrants in and out of those buildings that are still there, yeah.
That was when it was Connecticut Children's Medical Center, that was where the parents would stay?
There may have been some housing for parents and physicians and visiting doctors and nurses were there too as well.
I remember back in the day when that was staff housing.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. Mostly staff housing.
The only other thing
Do we have a map?
of interest is,
Do we have like a site map of the whole thing?
Not with me tonight, no.
Okay. We got one, right?
We can look at a GIS or something, yeah. So I mean, I don't think we have a full-blown survey of that whole property because it's so large and it's a state facility, so they pretty much were in before zoning a lot of it.
just one other thing is, we did receive a grant. This grant went through for 2 electric motor vehicle
Yep.
charging stations, which will be on Garfield Street, and they hope to get it completed this year.
Yeah, it's gonna be when they redo the lower lot in front of the library, I believe.
Other than that, well, we are looking into, and it came up as new business, but we will be putting together, organizing a town manager search committee. We'll be speaking to that at the next council meeting and proposed, the registrars of voters brought their proposal for implementation of early voting, which again, under new business. And, but it was quite comprehensive, well thought out. And I think that's all we have.
Okay. Commissioners have anything for the council members before they leave? All right, seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, moving on to Pond Life Research and Education. I believe this is yours, Alan.
Yes, Chairman Zell, thank you for bringing up the first point. I was going to regarding the limbs and logs and such in the pond, and I'm glad that's going to be addressed when the water level is more indicative of removal. Thank you. The other is directly towards pond life as ducks and such are habitat there. Do we have a sign? I don't know. I don't really look. Do we have a sign that says "Don't feed the wildlife" or "Don't feed the ducks"?
Yes.
We do. Hello. Did somebody say yeah?
There may be one out there. I haven't been around recently. I know there used to be one over by the dock area. Yeah, but I don't know.
Okay. Well, the reason I bring it up is I've been reaching out to other towns and states regarding wildlife and their advocacy on protecting wildlife around ponds. And one particular community, Franklin, Massachusetts, is very proactive in all aspects of wetlands and wildlife. And they recently sent me a posting about a sign that they put together that explicitly states why we shouldn't feed these animals because it can congest their intestines and, kill them. So I would like to propose, looking at a sign like that, I'd be happy to bring the sign forward at the next meeting and so you can see the content of the text in it. And then we can discuss whether or not we should propose it or maybe push it through to the Parks Department. That's my interest.
Eric, which.
I mean, if you want to bring something up, I can certainly draft a memo and send it over to Parks and they may choose to do what they want to do.
So if you could just get that over to Eric electronically and then he can forward it on to Parks.
Yes.
I mean, do you
will.
want,
No,
if
I'll
Mr.
go ahead.
I should say, if the commission wants to review it, if he sends it to me, I can just forward it to all the commissioners and you can discuss it at the next meeting. And then if you want to move forward, we can do it that way.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a great way to expedite it. Thank you. That's all I
Right.
have.
All right.
Okay.
Any other comments from commissioners before we adjourn? All right, seeing none, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion from Commissioner Omet, second.
Second.
Second from
Commissioner
Commissioner Paskowitz. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you.